One of the challenges we have as conductors is sorting through all of the sound that is coming to us with all its various elements of notes, rhythms, pitch, balance, etc. that's coming to us at the same time. And it's a pretty reasonable thing to say, how can I possibly hear all of these things at once, all of these elements that I'm supposed to be listening for, coming from all these different members of the ensemble with all these different notes? How can I hear them all at once? Well, the first thing you have to realize is you don't have to listen to them all at the same time. What we need to do is calibrate our ears selectively, which means that we're going to listen to certain elements at the same time, but not all of them. We have a brain, and the brain uses, say, has 100% of its ability. We can't go past 100%. But so we can say, I'm going to give 50% to this and 50% to that. If we wind up saying 1% to everything, well, we wind up doing everything pretty poorly. So, for example, especially early on in the rehearsal process, we might put most of our brain's energy on notes and rhythms. We're going to calibrate it to listen selectively for those issues. So we'll be conducting along, and that's what we're really working hard to evaluate. Other things might be going on, other things, well, we might be aware of them, but that's not where we're putting our emphasis. That's not what we've calibrated ourselves to do. And then you can see how we can just simply change that calibration. We might say, all right, we're going to listen to notes and rhythms and for balance. Okay, so that's what we're going to emphasize as we go through. We might say that notes and rhythms are always there at some level. There's always 10 to 15 to 20% of our brain's energy worried about notes, because that's the foundation. If notes and rhythms are not secure, well then to build other musical issues on top of that is fruitless. So we might layer on top of that low-level notes and rhythms, which is always running in the background, balance, pitch. All right, balance and pitch as we go. In addition to, oh, that's a wrong note. Okay, oh, that's out of balance, and okay, that's out of tune. I'm going to need to fix that, depending on what our plan for the rehearsal is. We can be more specific than that. Instead of just balance, we can say, all right, I'm calibrating my ears to listen selectively for notes and rhythms, of course, but also for balance in the trombones and balance in between first and second violins. Okay. Or for pitch, listen selectively for pitch in octaves, all the octaves that are occurring. I want to make sure those are in tune. Or rhythmic ensemble, make sure not only are the rhythms correct, but that rhythmic ensemble is good, that the cellos who have the same rhythm as the flutes are playing at the same time that same rhythm. Be aware of that. So you can see we can layer 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. As you get better and your ear gets stronger, you can layer more issues to selectively listen to on top of that. There's a great story about the conductor Seiji Ozawa, a great conductor, longtime conductor of the Boston Symphony. And it may not be true, but it's a great story either way, that he would go into a rehearsal, perhaps with an unfamiliar orchestra, and he would just listen to the viola line, for example, during a run-through. That's all he would listen to. He'd conduct away, he's cueing folks and doing all sorts of musical things, but really his ear is on the viola line. And he gets to the end of the piece, and then you stop and say, hey, viola's in measure 28 on the end of 4. The 16th note was just a little bit sharp and a little bit early. And they think, oh, how did you hear all these notes going on? How did you hear that level of detail in the viola line? Well, that's all he was listening to, or so the story goes. But we can use that to our advantage, where we're not going to listen to everything at the same time. We're going to calibrate our ears a little bit. Now, this doesn't mean that if you're conducting along and you hear you're calibrated, let's say, for balance and rhythmic ensemble, or a specific issue of rhythmic ensemble between these voices and the way the chords are balanced in the clarinet and bassoon line, and then something else goes really wrong rhythmically or pitch-wise with the double basses. It's not that you ignore that because, oh, no, I'm only listening to that. I don't care what happens anywhere else. Of course, you can stop and say, oh, well, that popped out too, because your brain is going to be listening to more things at once. But don't be too intimidated by the idea that I don't think I can listen to everything at the same time. You're not expected to, especially early on. Through your planning, you're going to calibrate your ears to listen selectively. So what do we do on the concert or on a run-through? What do we choose to listen to there? Well, there we're calibrating for big picture sort of issues. Are we together? Are we shaping the phrase in the right way? Are there wrong notes and rhythms that are popping out that we need to fix? These sorts of things. And you might calibrate a little more generically. So you might go more towards 4% on that, 4% on that, 4% on that, 4% on that, because we want to monitor everything. We just have to accept that we can't monitor everything at full power unless we know, okay, we're going to run it, but I got to be very aware of how those crescendos are working and the strings. Very aware of that, so we calibrate that way. So get in the habit of thinking like this and planning in advance what you're listening for. And of course, not only planning in advance what you're listening for, but what you're expecting and looking to come out of the ensemble. It's not simply enough to say, calibrated to listen to phrasing in the second violins or in the violin line or in the melody line. That's not enough. You have to know what the phrase is supposed to sound like, what you think based on your score study and based on your own musical instincts, what that line should sound like. Calibrating your ears to listen selectively.